Hello, and welcome to the Reed-Yorke Health Professions Advising Office virtual workshop on how to ask for letters of recommendation in a virtual world. Because classes will be in a virtual capacity for the foreseeable future, and we know how important it is for our pre-health students to make connections with their professors to gain these letters, we put together some tips to help you navigate this process. First and foremost, it is important for you to realize that this is your letter of recommendation. Of course, you are not going to be writing it, but how you go about getting this letter will also say a lot about you. You have to make an effort. Do not expect that all professors will write you a letter just because you ask. You have to keep in mind that they have other courses and other students asking them for letters as well. So when you do ask, be sure it is early enough for your timeline and for them to write you a quality letter. It's also a good idea to start cultivating a relationship with your letter writer early. Letters of recommendation are written because you have a relationship with the letter writer, whether they are your professor, your clinical supervisor, or your volunteer coordinator. You are asking this person to write you a letter because it will be a positive reflection on you, and that positive recommendation comes from the relationship you have cultivated, not just your ability to receive an A in their class, per se. Begin cultivating this relationship early and keep in touch with them often. Ask questions during your Zoom class, through email, or their virtual office hours as well. Of course, you want a letter from someone that knows you well, and they are going to get to know you through having conversations about things outside of the classroom. People enjoy talking about themselves. Ask them about their story and where they got to where they are today. That will give you a chance to tell them where you see your future headed and begin a personable relationship. Your letter writer should know who you are, your work, your academic career plans, and where you plan on applying. Cultivating this relationship with your professor is still possible virtually. In the age of social media, students are able to make connections with their peers virtually, so why can't you with professors? Many of the same opportunities that would have happened in person still exist virtually. Email. If your session is concurrent with class instruction, showing up, going to virtual drop-in or office hours, participating in discussion posts more than required. Showing effort even though you're not physically in the class is important. Recently, a professor calculated that in his summer course over the first 12 sessions, his students interacted on an average of 118 times each via Zoom chat. The 25th percentile was still 67 times. That's much more interaction than in his typical face-to-face courses. Ask your professor to set up a time to Zoom call or Skype to discuss your plans for graduate school instead of asking to meet them for coffee like you normally would have. Faculty members are human too and love to hear from students about their life endeavors. Email information to your faculty member right before your appointment time so they can review your documents as you're speaking with them. This way, if they have any questions, they can ask them at that time and won't have to play email tag with you. Email also allows you to be a bit more precise. You have more time to really think about what you're asking and formulate the perfect question or how you want to get your information across. If you are someone who typically thrives in an in-person environment, maybe think about emailing your professor at the beginning of the semester to virtually introduce yourself, your interests, and that you're looking forward to having their course this semester because whatever the reason may be. We polled some current University of Maryland faculty members about how they suggest students interact with them through this new virtual learning environment, and here's what they suggested. An intro email stating that you're excited in the course and are open to any additional resources they may offer is a good idea to start the semester with. Doing well in the course is very important to help the professor write a strong letter of recommendation about how hard you work and ultimately ended up doing well as a result. Making sure your Google email image is appropriate is now more important than ever since email is the main way you will be communicating throughout the semester. If you're curious about things relating to material outside of the classroom, ask. And finally, attend the Zoom office hours or set up a Zoom meeting with your professor. It is often more intimate than if you were physically attending their on-campus office hours, as they are far less distracting. So we've covered how to cultivate this relationship needed for these letters and the opportunities you have even through virtual life. But how do we actually ask for them? Use the relationship you have formed with your letter writer to meet one-on-one. Set up a separate Zoom or phone call to discuss your endeavors and the perfect chance to ask for this letter. Whether in person or Zoom or via email, you want to be respectful of your letter writer's time and effort they will be putting into this letter. Ask them for this letter early. Give them enough time to write the letter well, but also give yourself a little wiggle room if you need to push back when they send it. For example, if you know it needs to be in by December 15th, ask the letter writer to get it to you or turn it in by December 1st. That way, if they're late or they forgot, you can send them a friendly reminder and they still have time to complete the letter of recommendation. Give them all the information they need up front. That could be your resume or CV, or some letter writers may ask you for a draft of your personal statement, so have something prepared. Give them all the essentials of who, what, when, where, how, and why this letter is for. Most applications will have complete instructions you can send them on their website, but it is important to give your letter writers this information when you ask. Lastly, show thanks and continue to cultivate the relationship. Just because you ask them for the letter does not mean you are done with them. Most application processes are over a year long. Your letter writers are going to want to hear how it's going, where you got interviews, or if you had a change of heart in your professional journey. No matter what, keep in touch with your letter writers. Remember, the only part about asking for letters of recommendation that has changed is the space in which it is happening. Whether virtual or in person, cultivating relationships and being prepared is essential for asking for quality letters of recommendation. The UMD Career Center and our HPAO website have some great advice on addressing letters of recommendation, so you can be sure to check out those links on this slide. As always, do not hesitate to reach out to our office if you have any further questions. And best of luck this semester.